What was something that made you say, yeah, that person's not right in the head? I once knew a guy that would fake seizures for attention. I knew he was faking it because it never seemed quite right. But once I started announcing, okay, I'm calling an ambulance, he would immediately come to with zero side effects. It happened a number of times. He would fall over seizing, and the second I yelled call an ambulance, he propped right up 1 second later and would be like, don't worry, I'm good now. One time I actually did call an ambulance, even after he protested not to, and he was freaking pee. I said, hey man, you have seizures so often that I felt like you needed medical attention, and of course the doctors didn't really find anything wrong with him. He wouldn't talk to me for weeks. But then all of a sudden his seizures became far less frequent. Anybody that fakes that kind of crap for attention is fricked in the head. Male co-worker who would put obviously cut from magazine photos of beautiful women in a frame on his desk. He would talk about these girlfriends for months as if they were real, and then would call out sick for a few days as girlfriend had died in a tragic way, usually car accident. Then a new photo would appear and the process would start over. Once, he asked a co-worker on a date and she said, why would I do that when anyone who dates you ends up dead? Whoa. At my library a lady came to the reference desk and said, this pen you gave me doesn't work. She opened her journal, flipped through multiple pages of scribbles until she found a blank one. She then scribbled all over that page and said, see, nothing is coming out, even though she just scribbled black ink all over the page. Then she giggled and walked away. Pretty sure that's the beginning of a horror film right there, buddy. Knew a kid in high school who wrote a letter to a friend on our graduation day telling her that he always loved her. He wrote that he wished she picked him as her boyfriend and that if he could, he'd kill her boyfriend so they could be together. He also always smelled like poop, and you can tell he hardly showered. Smelling like poop can have negative social impacts. She was sitting next to me on the bus, digging into her face with her dirty nails until she bled. Then she licked the blood off her fingers. During my student placement in a psychiatric hospital, I was tasked with teaching an axe murderer how to relax. He killed his neighbor for ringing his doorbell. I would be the most chill, patient, zen person after this experience. Worked in a cell phone store and this 400-pound lady came in and asked me to fix her iPhone. I looked at the phone and the background was her butt naked spread eagle with her cooter on display dead center. Her internet worked fine BTW. I was at my apartment with my girlfriend. My roommate comes home with this friend of his that is a bit off his rocker. My friend is a bleeding heart and was trying to help this guy get on his feet by setting him up at a halfway house. Roommate's friend proceeds to start hitting on my girlfriend, standing way too close, and keeps trying to touch her hands, arms, and face. Girlfriend freaks out. I wasn't in the room, but I enter the room and see this guy cornering my girlfriend against the wall and tell him to get the frick out. Roommate's friend then proceeds to tell me it's fine. He was invited in the house. I tell him to get out again. He tells me he'll whoop my butt because he was invited in, therefore he gets to hit on my girlfriend and corner her against her will. It was a very rappy vibe. Before I get a chance to, my roommate storms into the room and grabs his friend by the hair and hauls him out of the house. Last I heard of that guy, he was thrown in jail for trying to rob an armored car at Walmart. During his shift at Walmart, when jail didn't work out for him, he got beat up a lot. He got thrown into an asylum. You met the vampire. I just moved to a fairly major, metropolitan city, walking around just checking out the neighborhood, feeling really good about new options. A woman, mid-40s maybe and reasonably well dressed, walking down the sidewalk towards me. She looked to be dancing a bit. I figured she had earbuds or something. Nope, just a continual murmured stream of low monotone crazy coming out of her mouth. The part I remember was, dang KKK always stealing my welfare check, but it just kept going. Guessing drugs or mental illness or both. She was white so the reference seemed especially odd. I also hate it when the KKK steal my welfare check. A new sentence on Reddit. I was hired because the other man doing the job was found unconscious on the floor by the morning crew. He claimed to have been abducted by aliens and demons. Well, I get to know him. He trained me. He hadn't had a day off in 7 years. He was afraid to. He had been in prison for 10 years prior to this job for armed robbery. I pick him up one night for work. He lived in a shack with a dirt floor. It had 2 buckets, one for a seat and one for his bathroom. One night he tells me he is the last of the Mohicans and he is currently finishing his version of the Quran. Then one night he comes into the restaurant coughing and hacking so bad half the customers got up and left. He was stumbling and crashing into tables. He sits down and I told him that since he was sick I could drive him home and I can cover our shift. He says, "No way son, I'm healthy as I've ever been." I asked what he meant. He had taken a bucket and mixed bleach and ammonia, a big no-no, draped a towel over his head and breathed the fumes for 3 hours to clear the demons from his body. After I left that job, that poor man walked into a bank, held it up with a gun. He sat down in the bank with the money and waited on the cops. He wanted to go back to prison because he couldn't make it on his own. I really hope he gets the help he needs. Not one day off in 7 years of working at the same place can mess with you, especially if you're already not in a good place mentally. My little sister has always wanted to be an author, ever since she was little, and she practices like heck. She was 12 when she showed her work to my ex-friend's mom, because the woman had a bunch of fancy degrees dealing in literature and her opinion meant a lot to my sister. She read my sister's short story and told her that she had no future in writing, as her grasp on literature was far below average. My sister left the room and immediately burst into tears and quit writing for 3 whole years. She used to be so proud of her writing. She ran a blog and posted it for people to see. She let friends and family read it. That writing blog remains unupdated. To this day she never shows anyone her work anymore. This is the same woman who would make blatant sexual comments about my developing body, joke about me having sex with my male friends, we were all 15, and call me a W when I wore heels with my skirts. She would always pick on girls her daughter's age, say they were ugly, stupid, W, talentless, etc. Frick her hard. Sounds like an incredibly insecure person displacing her dissatisfaction with herself. My brother, stray A student, legit really smart, goes to some fancy culinary school and graduates, decides to work at Wendy's, starts smoking a lot of pot and some other hardcore stuff. I seriously can't figure out what happened. The pressure was too much. My mother's idiot, alcoholic, amusing cousin was back in town. His mother got tired of babysitting him. He's in his mid-40s. The same day my stepfather has a heart attack. Since my mother can't be there to help, she decides he can come over, and my aunt and I can deal with him. Now, I've never liked that man, ever. Even before M. He's a loud, talkative butthole who doesn't know when to shut up. He pestered me into knocking him over a table as a teen, so I wasn't happy. Still, I don't want to make waves. It's stressful enough right now. So, I mostly just ignore him by listening to music with some headphones. I don't leave him alone with my aunt, because she can't fight, but all seems to be well. Then I hear what sounds like Satan. Kinda weird, but not overly. But the expression on my aunt's face let me know that something was very wrong. Long story short, he was telling her about Satan fricking his girlfriend. He claimed to have hidden and watched, and, yes, he meant this very literally, apparently, his girlfriend planning to murder him, as well, after a particularly embarrassing thing he did that day, which resulted in me making him sit in the corner and not say a word. He thought I was trying to help his girlfriend murder him. Bonus: the reason he was in town, he'd crowned someone with a beer bottle because, you guessed it, he thought they were trying to help his girlfriend kill him. Man, that's one messed up girlfriend. You know how they say the eyes are the mirror of the soul? I went into a local restaurant and this person came to my table and said, "Hi, my name is Swayze and Swayze is crazy." I looked into her eyes and thought, yep. When I was around 8 or 9, my dad drove me to Dallas to see a football game with a bunch of family friends. One of the friends had a wife I had met once before, and when she first met me, she asked, "What's the one thing you want most in the world?" I said, "I dunno." She said, "Well, at your age, I wanted a horse." Apparently, this lady has forgotten that we already had this conversation, because when we meet the group at the hotel lobby, the first thing she asks me is, "What's the one thing you want most in the entire world?" 8-year-old me dutifully says a horse. She is just thrilled and everyone else gasps. When we all go out to dinner, she sits next to me and goes on about how I'm just exactly like her when she was my age. So much like her. And she gazes deep into my eyes as she says it. Later that night when a lot of the other couples and kids are in the pool, I'm sitting inside the hotel patio, again, being hovered over by this woman. She continues to lean into my space and coo about how I'm just so much like her. Just so exactly like her. She lights a cigarette, takes a deep puff, thoughtfully shakes her head and smiles as she stares at my face. I'm basically balled up in my seat, trying to get away from her without actually fleeing. My father, meanwhile, is too busy socializing with his friends to notice that I've been taken hostage by this crazy woman. He basically left me with her for the night. Every time he passes through the patio to get a beer from the cooler, she yells out, "Get this girl a horse," but he snaps no. Which would just lead to her arguing, "Yes, damn it. Get her a horse." Now and this repeats every time she sees him. Decades later my father went into therapy and finally found himself and realized he could do better with his parenting. He has always hinted that he has felt bad about the past, but I wonder if that includes him not rescuing me from crazy horse lady. I do not trust horse people. Paranoia is a big indicator. I never think this person's not right in the head because I work at a doctor's office and that line of thinking is disrespectful to the patients. But whenever someone is straight up paranoid or obsessive fixated about something, that's a big sign that there's something deeper going on. Yes, I agree. There's often a sad story behind it. Whenever I come across someone acting really weird, I think they either have some sort of psychosis or they are on drugs, or it's both. So I'm driving back home from a fire scene in Iowa. I'm in the middle of goddamn nowhere surrounded by inferior corn when I realize I need gas and I have to pee. I stop at the only Casey's I'd seen in like 50 miles because I also wanted pizza. There's 2 other people at this Casey's with me besides the workers. One is a woman, and the other is an older guy who looks to be in rough shape. I'm parked at the gas pump and watch the guy walk inside. I pump my gas and go inside and head straight for the restrooms. The bathrooms are on the left wall down a short hallway. As you're walking down the hallway there's a bulletin board with a bunch of flyers on it on your right side and the bathrooms on the left. The men's is in the back left corner of this tiny area. The area where the bulletin board is slightly smaller and creates kind of a bottleneck. Anyway, I try the door to the men's and it's locked. So I stand back and wait. Out walks the old dude. He smells terrible. His clothes are real ratty and stained. And he's just got this dead look in his eyes. He looks me straight in the eyes and smiles real big and says hi while not moving from in front of the door. Needing to go real bad at this point, I kinda nod and squeeze past him. He turns with me as I go into the bathroom and I quite literally shut the door in his face. I spent an extra minute in the bathroom hoping he's gone because it was already a weird enough encounter. But of course when I open the door he's standing at the bulletin board, blocking my only exit, and he's rubbing a poster with one finger over and over again. I walk towards him hoping he will move when he turns and says she's real cute. Not knowing what the frick he's talking about, I just kinda nod and motion that I want to get by. He then says it's a shame what happened to her. I don't think I knew her. Too bad. I'm still not sure what the frick this dude is talking about and why he's still talking to me and smiling. I kinda grunt out an aha, wanting this terribly awkward encounter with this clearly messed up person to end so I can never come back. He then completely turns to me, with one finger still on this one poster and says, "She is really cute, don't you think?" I again struggle out an aha, feeling thoroughly freaked out at this point. Still with zero freaking clue who this crazy butt dude is talking about. He then abruptly turns and walks away. I book it out of the store to my car before realizing I wanted some goddamn pizza and freaky man wasn't going to stop me from enjoying some nice lukewarm gas station pizza. So I went back inside. I grabbed my pizza and out of curiosity walked over to where our little encounter occurred. Dude was rubbing a picture and talking about a missing 14-year-old girl. Ooh, well that's creepy, man. When she walked to the middle of the street in a bra and underwear swearing at random people and yelling at the cars passing by. Power move. I was in the left turn lane at a stoplight 2 lanes of traffic besides me. I've got my windows down since I've been cruising around and playing tunes. It's a nice summer day. This guy walks into the middle of the road and asks me what's up. He's pretty spacey and has nappy blonde hair. I can smell him from inside my car. I don't really say much to him since who just walks up to a car in the middle of the road about to turn. Meanwhile he's standing there just blabbering on and having a conversation with himself. Like I'm actually engaging with him. As a side note, this guy wasn't like asking for change or holding a sign or anything. He had to walk a good 20-40 feet to get to me, across multiple lanes of traffic. TLDR. A schizo homeless guy talks to himself at me while I'm waiting to turn. Goes to college majoring in biomedical engineering and some sort of anthropology, but is a Christian and doesn't believe in any of it. A family friend, F23, had a new boyfriend every month and would constantly tell me that I needed to mature and grow up since I'd only had one girlfriend and we had a bad breakup. I'm 20 currently, and the breakup happened at 17. This family friend recently moved to Wyoming to meet a guy she met online. She only 2 for weeks. A week after being there they announced their engagement all over social media. Keep in mind they've only known each other for 3 weeks. But here's the kicker. She bought herself the engagement ring and announced everything before she told him and he still said yes. Where's that eating popcorn gif when you need it? I worked at a state park as a seasonal employee for a while. Once, while cleaning a restroom, I noticed a young man behaving somewhat oddly. He walked into the restroom, looked around, bolted out the door. I saw him outside behaving similarly. I kind of assumed he was nonverbal and possibly on the autism spectrum. No big deal. He's not the not right in the head guy. I was approached by a man in a cowboy hat who asked me, does that boy, indicating the possibly autistic guy, have a dumb spirit? And I am taken aback. I said, excuse me? Cowboy hat guy, you know, does he have a dumb spirit? And I am, is he retarded like me? Still taken aback. A cowboy hat guy, you know the Bible tells us that Satan will strike people dumb with the spirit of. At this point I turned around and picked up my mop and went back to cleaning the restrooms. Who does something like that? Who approaches a public employee like that and assumes I'll agree with him? Oh yeah, yup. Definitely a dumb spirit. Definitely an odd encounter, but cowboy might have meant dumb as in nonverbal. I think he was trying to explain that a possessed person could be struck dumb, not able to talk, until they're exorcised. Guy I met one time was later convicted of murdering his girlfriend. He stabbed her 20+ times in the face. I'm against that. When a co-worker laughed suddenly while we were working side by side, and I looked at her and she said, I have dark thoughts. Ooh, okay then. Sounds like she's fake edgy. This kid would anime run around the school and during finals he would start silently screaming with his arms in the air like he was in serious pain or something. Either he was messed in the head or he's just the classic weird kid. Oh boy, it could be the second one. Cute girl starts flirting with me. Says I'm cute and funny. Nice. Next day she invites me over tomorrow to her house to have fun. Parents aren't home. Nice. Tomorrow comes and I'm at her house. Wearing short shorts and a sweater. She invites me into her room. Says she has a surprise for me. Nice. I get into her room, she takes off her clothes and I notice something. She cut my name multiple times all across her forearms with a razor. Fudge. She then says it's my turn to cut her name into my forearms to show I want her just as bad. Fudge. I turn around and walk away. Oh heck no. In arguments, that is, with their partner, breaks or smashes things their body to a point of damage or injury. Examples: punching holes in walls, smashing their head on a desk, throwing expensive electronics or equipment across the room, thereby breaking them. Anger is natural, but losing control over one's body like that is something else. I've done that before. Throwing stuff only, because I never learned healthy ways to deal with anger. My parents both have never dealt with anger in healthy ways, and so it goes. Or whatever. Thankfully I did come to realize it was wrong and I've been working on my anger because the last thing I would want is for it to escalate to something horrible. I don't want to be like that. Every single time a smile doesn't match a pair of eyes, I think a person isn't right in the head. Like, big smile but dead eyes. Something's off. Like the captain in him. My little sister, 7, always talks about eating people and how blood tastes like metal and to her metal tastes good. Not only that, she is going through a thing where she thinks she is an actual wolf. I don't know what to do anymore. If she goes full furry, you know what must be done. You furry slayer 1010. The other day at work, the talk of the town was about a previous employee who was caught with child pee on his computer in a local bust. He fled the country. Years later, present, he gets into an argument with his girlfriend's mom. She turned him in and now he's facing extradition. Side note, everyone caught in that bust was dropped because the sting was fake or something. So anyhow, they are talking about this during pre-shift and a co-worker who is quite vocal on his opinions. He's a legitimate flat earther, says very loudly, "I don't understand. It doesn't make sense that just because you have child pee on your device that you can be charged. I mean, what if you didn't create it? It's just photos that you're looking at." Girl I met declared she suffers from depression within the first 20 minutes of meeting her. Continues to talk about it for hours. Next day I check in to see if she is doing okay. Her response: "I am not a little broken bird that needs your help. Stop trying to fix me. If you wanna help people, go be a doctor or a policeman or something." 2. I am sorry. I didn't know I can only help people by being those things. Dodge a bullet there. I walked up to an ATM where a well-dressed and groomed man in his 30s was taking a long time to pull out cash. Eventually I got frustrated and tapped him on the shoulder to try and get his attention. I tried this 2 or 3 times with no luck. I finally just get next to him and ask if he is okay. He just stands there and keeps pushing the buttons on the ATM and muttering to himself. I just left and went to another spot to pull out cash. Super creepy, but guy was either on drugs or not right. He was either on too many or not enough drugs. When I was in grade school, a kid had lost a game of Connect 4 during recess. As soon as he lost, he became enraged and threw the Connect 4 set. Proceeded to smack the kid he lost to and got his butt beat. Teachers then came in several minutes later to take him to the office. He refused to get up out of his seat, and they had to forcefully pull him out, kicking and screaming. Just my teacher couldn't get him. She had to get another teacher nearby and have him help. They carried him horizontally, one teacher holding his legs and the other holding his upper body. We heard him screaming bloody murder all the way down the hall. Some girl came running out of the woods near my house and went up to my neighbor and said with a straight face, "Did you know that if you put ice in a blender with mangoes it makes a really good smoothie?" Then sprinted away from the house and down the street at like Mach 4. My 6-year-old female cousin was throwing an empty Coca-Cola glass bottle up in the air and letting it fall on her head repeatedly. It hurt her each time it hit her in the head, but she kept doing it anyway. So background. I worked in a hospital where we were given a phone to use to call up or message attending physicians so they wouldn't have our personal numbers and we wouldn't get calls off ours on our personal phones. One day in the middle of November we started getting messages on the hospital mobile. A new doctor was getting hired and one of our colleagues was getting fired from an unknown number. And so it happened. We checked with admin and said this wasn't real, but someone did kick him off the system. We left him to deal with HR and vouch for him. In January, literally after New Year's Eve, another colleague disappeared and our colleague who got removed decided to give up and find a better job. He did. And then we found out the second colleague who disappeared staged her resume. She wasn't a real doctor. She was dispensing meds and doing consults but didn't have degree. We dug deeper and found out all her IDs were fake, diploma and her name wasn't real, and all her social media were fake accounts. Getting the guy fired was a distraction. So, an explanation. Until November, this fake had never been assigned in the air. She had always been on the floors with nurses and other doctors helping her out when she had a question she didn't know. But then a vacancy opened up and she grabbed the assignment cause it paid better. Then one of the admins noticed her paperwork was off with diagnoses that stated absurd medical facts that no one really gets taught in medical school. She wrote whooping cough as woofing cough and tonsillopharyngitis as sore throat. Insurance got antsy and couldn't approve the papers for billing, so an investigation got started. That's when she sent texts from a burner that our legitimate colleague was getting fired for weird reasons. She started telling stories how he wasn't doing well and how our other colleges were doing unethical crap, so all of us were in a frenzy. She did this the entire November. By December people were too confused to deal with the admin cause the admin was just as lost. Then she disappeared. The hospital covered it up cause they were afraid of getting sued. She was found a couple months later scamming a clinic and arrested cause she stole someone's identity, but police in my area couldn't prove she was a fake, so they let her go after a week. She's still scamming people, but none of the hospitals and clinics want to chase her down cause of reputations to uphold. TLDR. A colleague was apparently a fake doctor and scammed the hospital. Catch me if you can, but real life. Those hospitals should be punished for employing someone as a doctor without verifying their credentials and for trying to cover it up afterwards. Frick everything about that. Random dude downtown walking around and talking to himself shirtless. He was talking about the kingdom of the doors needles to say my dad walked on that side of us while my mom and I were on the other. A friend of mine was dating a dude who I thought was a girl when I first met him, wearing her mascara and looking generally feminine. We went to go hang out at a local nature park, and he kept bragging about his knife collection. Then out of nowhere he wiped out his double-sided, obviously illegal blade, and processed to explain why she had been calling him turtle killer. Tried to take a turtle's shell of him to top it all off. Later that day when we hung out at his house, his younger sister said running over cats was, and I quote, satisfying. I was genuinely afraid for my life as I had known her longer and he probably thought I might steal her away. A person, and I use the word loosely, that worked for me explained to me how funny it would be to see one of the man up VNA. Think forklift where the cab goes up with the forks up to about 50-60 feet. Tip over with two people in it and people working nearby, and even after I very clearly explained that the people in it and the people working nearby would die, he said yeah, but it'd still be funny because it's not me. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.